Ladies and gentlemen, let me start with this. Beware of the quiet ones. Beware of the ones who choose their own company over the noise of the world. Why? Because solitude is power, and a woman who spends time alone. She's not just dangerous, she's unstoppable and destined to become forever linked to the dark sides of humanity. Let me explain. Think about it. In a world obsessed with validation, connection, and noise, she's not seeking approval. She's not waiting for someone to save her. She's not afraid to face herself. She's mastering her craft, her mind, her destiny. Now, doesn't that command respect? Today, I want you to see why such a woman is a force like no other. I want you to understand the strength she carries, the peace she cultivates, and the power she wields. If you think spending time alone is weakness, let me prove you wrong. This speech will change how you see solitude forever. A woman who embraces solitude is not lonely. She is empowered. The time she spends in quiet reflection is not a retreat from the world, but a calculated pause to observe, learn and grow. Solitude is her sanctuary, not her cage. It's in this sacred space that she finds clarity, a clarity that the noise of the world cannot offer. This is not just a moment of rest, but an intentional act of self-mastery. When a woman sits with herself, she confronts her thoughts, fears and desires. There are no distractions, no facades, just raw, unfiltered truth. And this truth becomes her greatest ally. In a society that often conditions people to fear being alone, she has flipped the narrative. She understands that solitude is not isolation, but an opportunity to meet her most authentic self. She doesn't run from silence. She welcomes it, knowing that in the stillness, she can hear the voice that matters most, her own. In disquietudes, she hones her ability to think critically and act decisively. There's a profound strength in stepping away from the crowd, even temporarily, to reassess and recalibrate. Solitude gives her the vantage point to see her life from a higher perspective. She doesn't make decisions in haste or under the influence of external pressures. Her choices are deliberate, thoughtful, and aligned with her values. She recognizes that power lies in preparation, and solitude is her preparation ground. But let's be clear, this isn't about detachment or avoidance. It's about connection, not to others, but to herself. This connection allows her to recharge, heal, and nurture her spirit. She emerges from her solitude with a renewed sense of purpose and an unshakable resolve. While the world rushes forward in chaos, she stands still, grounded in her truth, unbothered by the fleeting opinions of others. She knows that the quality of her life depends not on how much she does, but on how intentionally she does it. Solitude also sharpens her focus. Without the constant chatter of the world, she can zero in on her goals and aspirations. She is not easily swayed by trends or external expectations because her direction comes from within. Her vision is clear, her path defined and her steps purposeful. She understands that success is not measured by how much you accumulate, but by how deeply you align with your purpose. This time alone is also when she strengthens her emotional armor. By processing her emotions in solitude, she learns to understand and manage them. She becomes a master of her feelings, not a slave to them. This emotional intelligence makes her resilient, enabling her to face challenges with grace and fortitude. In her solitude, she discovers that she doesn't need anyone to complete her because she is already whole. This realization is liberating. She doesn't seek external validation because she validates herself. Her worth is not determined by her relationships, achievements, or possessions, but by the deep-seated confidence that comes from knowing who she is. In this liberation, she discovers that she doesn't need anyone to complete herself. Solitude is not just a state of being, it's a powerful tool. It is in solitude that she becomes the architect of her destiny. A woman who masters solitude masters herself, and a woman who masters herself is a force no one can ignore. A woman who spends time alone is a woman who builds unshakable confidence. This confidence does not come from applause or approval. It comes from the quiet moments when she learns to believe in herself. When she spends time alone, she becomes her own anchor, her own cheerleader, and her own source of strength. In solitude, she doesn't need anyone to tell her she's enough. She knows it because she's taken the time to reflect, to grow, and to truly understand her worth. Confidence rooted in solitude is different from the fleeting confidence that comes from external validation. It's not tied to someone else's opinion or the changing tides of popularity. This kind of confidence is steady, like a deep river that flows regardless of what's happening on the surface. She doesn't need to prove herself to anyone because she has already proven herself to the most important person in her life, herself. In a world where so many people seek validation through likes, comments, or public praise, she steps away from the crowd and chooses to stand on her own. This act alone is an incredible statement of self-assurance. It says I am enough even when no one is watching. That kind of belief is rare and powerful. It is unbreakable because it comes from within, forged in the quiet moments when she has faced herself. Her fears, her doubts and her dreams and emerge stronger. Her confidence also comes from knowing her value isn't dependent on external circumstances. She understands that she is worthy not because of her achievements, appearance or relationships, but because of who she is at her core. Spending time alone allows her to connect with that core, to strip away the layers of societal expectations, and find the essence of her true self. This self-awareness gives her the courage to walk into any room and own her space, not with arrogance, but with quiet, undeniable assurance. When she spends time alone, she also develops an inner voice that drowns out the noise of the world. This voice is her compass, guiding her decisions and reminding her of her worth when the world tries to make her doubt it. She doesn't need to compare herself to anyone else because she's too focused on her own journey. She knows that comparison is the thief of joy, and she refuses to let anything steal the peace and confidence she has cultivated in solitude. Her confidence is not just about how she sees herself, it's about how she moves through the world. It's in the way she speaks, the way she carries herself, and the way she responds to challenges. She doesn't crumble under pressure because she has spent time strengthening her foundation. She doesn't let setbacks define her because she knows they're just stepping stones on her path. This kind of confidence is magnetic. People are drawn to her not because she seeks their approval, but because her self-assuredness inspires them. She shows others what is possible when you take the time to truly know and believe in yourself. Her confidence is a reflection of her solitude, and her solitude is the source of her strength. A woman who spends time alone cultivates an extraordinary level of emotional intelligence. By stepping away from the distractions of the world, she gains the clarity needed to explore and understand her inner emotional landscape. In solitude, she sits with her feelings, not running from them, not suppressing them, but facing them head-on. This introspection allows her to dissect the why behind her emotions, to understand her triggers, and to navigate her reactions with intention. She doesn't just feel. She learns to analyze and grow from those feelings, turning moments of vulnerability into opportunities for self-discovery. The time she spends alone teaches her to differentiate between what is hers to carry and what belongs to others. When emotions arise, she doesn't immediately react or project, she reflects. Is this frustration rooted in her own unmet expectations? Or is it the weight of someone else's energy? Is this sadness a fleeting moment, or is it point to something deeper that needs addressing? Solitude offers her the space to answer these questions with honesty and precision. As a result, she becomes not only aware of her emotions, but also adept at managing them. This ability to process her emotions independently makes her remarkably resilient. She doesn't rely on others to validate her feelings or to fix her problems. She has built a toolkit of strategies during her alone time: journaling, meditating, self-coaching and self-soothing. These tools empower her to handle life's challenges with grace and composure. When faced with adversity, she doesn't crumble because she has already done the hard work of understanding herself. She knows her limits and her strengths, and she approaches each situation with wisdom, born from self-awareness. Emotional intelligence also makes her highly attuned to the world around her. By understanding her own emotions, she gains a deeper understanding of others. She knows what it feels like to be hurt, elated, anxious, or overjoyed, and this empathy allows her to connect with people on a profound level. Yet she doesn't let this empathy overwhelm her. Time alone has taught her to set boundaries, not as walls, but as protective spaces that ensure her well-being. She knows when to give and when to step back, ensuring that her emotional reserves remain intact. This self-awareness extends to her relationships. A woman who spends time alone is intentional about the company she keeps. She doesn't cling to people out of fear of being alone, nor does she tolerate toxicity. She values quality over quantity, and her relationships reflect that. The time she spends understanding herself allows her to recognize what she needs and deserves from others. She enters relationships as a whole, fulfilled person, not looking for someone to complete her, but rather someone to complement her journey. Her emotional intelligence also gives her the courage to express herself authentically. She communicates her feelings with clarity and respect, unafraid of vulnerability because she knows it's a strength, not a weakness. She can navigate difficult conversations, resolve conflicts, and foster deeper connections because she understands that emotional intelligence is as much about listening as it is about speaking. Dr. D. Through her time alone, she learns to master her emotions, not to suppress or ignore them, but to harness their power for growth and connection. A woman with this level of emotional intelligence is a force to be reckoned with. A woman who not only understands herself, but also the world around her. She's failed twice. She's failed once with her family, and then she's failed once with her career. And together, a woman who spends time alone develops a strength that is unparalleled, a strength rooted in independence and resilience. By choosing solitude, she confronts life on her own terms, learning to rely on herself in ways that many never dared to. This independence isn't about rejecting the world or isolating herself from others. Instead, it's about building a foundation so strong that no external force can shake her. She becomes her own support system, her own protector, and her own guide, proving that she is fully capable of standing tall, even when the winds of life blow fiercely against her. In solitude, she discovers the power of self-reliance. She learns that she can solve problems without waiting for someone else to provide the answers. When challenges arise, she doesn't panic or depend on others to rescue her. Instead, she taps into her resourcefulness. Spending time alone allows her to think critically and approach obstacles with a clear mind. She doesn't view setbacks as insurmountable. She sees them as puzzles to be solved. This mindset transforms her into someone who can thrive in the face of adversity. She becomes a pillar of strength, not only for herself, but often for those around her. The storytelling, character and chemistry of lasting value will keep the Playboy princess around. Her independence extends to the way she handles her emotions and needs. She understands that her happiness is her responsibility, not something to be outsourced or borrowed from others. When she feels joy, she owns it. When she faces pain, she processes it. She doesn't rely on others to fill her emotional gaps because she has already done the work to heal, grow, and find contentment within herself. This self-sufficiency is not born out of necessity, but choice. A choice to take control of her own narrative and destiny. A woman who thrives in her own company also develops an unshakable sense of resilience. She knows what it feels like to face silence, to wrestle with her thoughts, and to emerge stronger for it. Solitude has taught her that she can survive difficult times, not because someone held her hand through them, but because she held her own. She has learned to weather storms, to rebuild when things fall apart, and to keep moving forward even when the path isn't clear. This resilience makes her unstoppable. Life may throw obstacles her way, but she faces them with a calm determination, knowing that she has already overcome so much on her own. Her independence also allows her to live authentically. She doesn't make decisions based on what others expect or demand of her. Instead, she follows her own values, dreams, and instincts. She doesn't fear being different or going against the grain because she isn't dependent on the approval of others. She values her freedom and refuses to compromise her sense of self to fit into molds that don't align with her truth. This authenticity is her greatest strength, a beacon that guides her and inspires those who watch her navigate life with such confidence. A woman who spends time alone builds a kind of strength that can't be faked or borrowed. It is a strength that comes from knowing herself, trusting herself, and standing firm in the face of life's uncertainties. She is a testament to the power of independence and resilience. A woman who needs no permission to be powerful and no validation to be extraordinary. Discovered. A woman who spends time alone develops an authenticity that is both rare and magnetic. In a world where people often wear masks or adopt personas to fit in, she stands out because she refuses to pretend. Her time alone gives her the space to strip away the layers of societal expectations and external pressures, allowing her to reconnect with the true essence of who she is. She learns to embrace her quirks, flaws, strengths and vulnerabilities without apology. This authenticity becomes her greatest asset. It radiates from her, drawing others in not because she is seeking approval, but because she is unapologetically herself. In solitude, she is free from the judgments of others. There is no one to tell her how to behave, what to wear, or what to think. In this space, she can explore every facet of herself, from the parts that are gentle and nurturing to the parts that are bold and fierce. She can be soft and strong, quiet and loud, tender and fierce, all without the fear of rejection or misunderstanding. This freedom allows her to align her inner world with her outer expression. What you see is what you get, and that's exactly how she wants it. There is no disconnect between who she is and how she shows up in the world. And that's what's amazing is, I can see that without her authenticity is not just about self-acceptance, it is about self-presentation. When she speaks from the heart. When she acts, she does so in alignment with her values. She does not bend herself into shapes to fit into spaces that aren't made for her. Instead, she carves out her own path, guided by her truth and driven by her purpose. This genuine expression of self is magnetic because it is so rare in a world filled with people trying to be what they think others want. A woman who is simply and unapologetically herself stands out as a beacon of honesty and integrity. Spending time alone also helps her to shed the fear of judgment. Many people hide parts of themselves because they are afraid of what others might think. But a woman who embraces solitude has already come to terms with her own worth. She doesn't seek validation from the outside world because she has already validated herself. Her confidence doesn't come from fitting into a mold or meeting someone else's expectations. It comes from the deep understanding that she is enough as she is. She doesn't need to justify her existence, her choices, or her way of life to anyone. She is the author of her own story, and she writes it unapologetically. This authenticity also gives her the courage to speak her truth. Even when it's uncomfortable, she is not afraid to stand alone in her beliefs or values because she knows that her voice matters. When she enters a room, her presence is felt not because she demands attention, but because she commands respect. People are drawn to her not because she is performing or trying to be something she's not, but because there is an undeniable energy that comes from someone who is wholly, deeply themselves. This is why speakers, athletic trainers, advocates and life coaches had to get so excited whenever they played the Weirs. In the end, a woman who spends time alone is a woman who knows herself. She is not afraid of her own reflection because she has learned to love and accept every part of it. Her authenticity is not a mask she wears. It is the truth she embodies. She doesn't need to prove anything to anyone because she already knows her worth. And this genuine, unapologetic self-expression is the foundation of her power, a power that others recognize and respect. Let me leave you with this thought. A woman who spends time alone isn't hiding. She's building her strength, building her future. Building a legacy that doesn't need validation to be remembered. So if you ever meet a woman who values her own company, don't pity her. Don't underestimate her. Understand this. She's not just dangerous, she's the embodiment of power. Now I ask you, will you dare to embrace your solitude and unlock that same strength? Thank you.